Yes, I'm a king, go I think I'm a king, go.
Fellow citizens and citizens of the world, we stand here in the aftermath of a highly contested election, of an election that poll observers from across the board have rightly described as an election that is so damaged in reputation and that is so fraudulent in characterization, that falls short beneath the requirements of the Zimbabwean Constitution, the electoral laws, and the guidelines of our regional, continental, and global bodies. However, despite all these obstacles and impediments, this election also unleashed a wonderful moment, a surge in resilience and hope from you, the Zimbabwean people. Some of you walked for dozens of kilometers. Some of you waited outside the polling stations for dozens of hours, and often without food or water. Some of you braved illegal intimidation and threats that no free person should have been subjected to or could endure. But guess what? You endured, particularly in Harare, in Bulawayo, and in Manicaland, areas and regions that are perceived to be our strongholds. Voting was suppressed. They didn't want you to vote. In the rural areas where they were voting, they were forcing them and intimidating them, commanding them to vote for ZANU-PF or face death. That command voting is illegal. That command voting shall be challenged. Ladies and gentlemen, the election process in Zimbabwe was shamelessly flawed, violated the Constitution of Zimbabwe, as well as the electoral laws of our republic. There was therefore an illegality and criminality in the conduct of ZEC and all the polling officers and officials that were involved. The election process was fraught with unprecedented illegalities, irregularities, and encyclopedic opaqueness and forces of darkness, particularly FAS, which has become a spooky, ghosty, and shadowy organization that takes instructions from those spooky headquarters. The election process itself fell far short of the SADC guidelines on elections and international electoral guidelines. And you know that this was a pronouncement of the observer missions, and we concur with that observation. Let me say that the Electoral Board ZEC regrettably and once again failed to perform its constitutional mandate by not announcing the correct and the accurate results. Notwithstanding the flaws of the election, genuine results should have been announced. And we have the genuine result because we are working on the V11. But they used the V23, and the result from the V23 is not tallying with the results on the V11s, particularly for the president, showing you that it was a doctored, it was an iron data configured by FAS, because the results from the polling station were transmitted to the FAS headquarters via the presiding officer. And this is common cause. And that became our biggest problem. And I've listened, I've watched. Some people are saying, well, there are no V11s. V11s are there. We deployed across the whole country. We were sufficiently represented, even though some of our polling agents were chased away, intimidated, and violated, particularly in Mashonaland Central and Mashonaland East, because those are terror zones where people don't exercise their vote. But for us to be able to move forward, we need to find a permanent answer to electoral reforms going forward, so that elections mean peace. Elections mean credibility. Elections mean legitimacy. As we speak, elections mean war. Elections mean intimidation. That cannot be a civilized affair. That cannot be a civilized expectation. We made a conscious decision. We knew that we were going into a flawed process. We were jumping into a sewer pond, and we knew that we would not come out there without smelling. Yes, we are smelling, but we never budgeted for this kind of smell that we have taken, particularly the announcement of a false result. We had a flawed voter registration process, a flawed delimitation process, we had a flawed nomination process, we had a flawed ballot, we had a flawed printing of the ballot paper. Can you imagine people waiting to cast their ballot and they're being told that the ballot paper is being printed, it's in the printing press, and wait for it. As it comes, it's still hot. You're supposed to vote. It has never happened. It shows you how shambolic the process was. It was a flawed electoral environment. There was a flawed electoral environment in the sense that there was widespread suppression of the vote, inflation of the vote, manipulation of the vote, but in rural areas, widespread intimidation of the voters. Why would you need a poll survey at a polling station on a polling day? To do what? To ask what question? But it tells you that we have people who are bizarre, who do not believe in choice and the dignity of the people. They believe in dehumanizing others. And that is an issue to be challenged. Given the assurance that we got from ZEC, we have seen that the election process itself has not passed the test of constitutionality, legality, and legitimacy. Some people were not allowed to vote. And Harare ended up having a deficit of about 700,000 voters who did not participate in voting. It's legendary. It's almost half of the voters who did not participate. Now, let me say, having said this, what are the next steps? What should the nation expect? There is going to be change in Zimbabwe. Whether ZANU-PF people want it or not, it's not going to be easy, but there shall be change. We will not wait for 5 years. There has to be change now. And we are going to lead in making sure that change comes to Zimbabwe. We put a full stop to this madness. Whatever it takes, we must provide leadership. Mr. Mnangagwa knows that he has performed a coup since 2008, a coup on the ballot, 2017, a coup on the elected leader, 2018, a coup on the ballot. He has repeated again, 2023, a coup on the ballot. You can't survive this for far too many times. This time, no further. We have drawn a line in the sand. We will not allow you to abuse people. You are not the last Zimbabwean. You are not the only Zimbabwean. We are all Zimbabweans. We all count. We all matter. And we will make sure we take our stand and we defend democracy. It is clear that we are rejecting the election as a sham, the result. The process itself, we disregard it. And it's in line with what the SADC observers have said. We reject this sham result and flawed process based on the disputed figures. We have our V11s. I'd asked our teams to bring those V11s. I'm not so sure if they're here so that you would see them. We have brought V11s from across the whole country. And those V11s are going to be the basis of our assertion. We have won this election. We are in the lead. We are even surprised why Mr. Mnangagwa has been declared, the leader. Because he's not. From the V11s we have, we are ahead. But if you look at the V23, Mr. Mnangagwa mysteriously and miraculously then declares a 52%, which is not backed by facts. Even if you look at other candidates who have then been given votes, it's because it has been engineered elsewhere. As far as we are concerned, a credible election must be declared and honored. A legitimate government and a legitimate president for everyone must be put in place and must be supported. Because some will say, but how are we going to do this? We have 1 million tools at our disposal to achieve our end. We will not repeat the mistake of 2018. We want to make sure that we put finality and full stop to all these tomfoolery games. Enough of shenanigans, enough of these antics and tactics, and we want to start a new chapter of happiness, of progress, of prosperity in this country. My fellow citizens, do not worry. What you are seeing is the end. It's the beginning of the end. They may try to stop you. You are unstoppable. They may try to frustrate you. You are unfrustratable. Keep the hope. Freedom is coming. Change will happen. We serve a good God. That is his style. He comes in miracles. He will do it for us. I know there are others who are doubting, but the end is nigh. Please pray for Zimbabwe as we go into these decisive steps to make sure that we fix aright our country and we restore democracy, legitimacy, peace, sanity, sanctity of human life, respect of each and every citizen. I ask you leaders, I ask you change champions, I ask you citizens, leaders in the various communities, to be vigilant, to ensure that together the voice of change rings loud. Your voice and your effort shall not be disregarded. We shall not allow that. Let us come together and defend our voice, defend our efforts, defend our liberation ideals. One man, one vote. It must happen. It will happen. Africa, do not leave us, particularly our fellow brothers and sisters in the region and on the continent. We count on your solidarity as we seek to resolve this political crisis, the emerging electoral crisis. I know God has remembered us. Help us in this remembrance and this last march. God bless you. God bless Zimbabwe. I thank you.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king, I think I'm a king,